Trump will sign an executive order shortly doing the following things: suspending all immigration for 30 days from Iran, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen until a new vetting system can be adopted. Syrian refugees are affected the most. The ban stretches indefinitely for them. All other refugee requests will be stalled for at least 4 months. One positive: if a refugee claims religious persecution, that application is prioritized. Speaking with ABC News, Mr. Trump said this.
I'll absolutely do safe zones in Syria for the people. I think that Europe has made a tremendous mistake by allowing these millions of people to go into Germany and various other countries, and all you have to do is take a look. It's a disaster what's happening over there. I don't want that to happen here.
Joining us from Washington, David Azerrad, a historian at the Heritage Foundation. Nashville, Tennessee, John Meacham, historian, author of the book Destiny and Power about Bush the Elder. Are these orders on immigration and security based on logic, Mr. Meacham?
I think so. I think, there's a 1952 law that already on the books that the government can screen for any immigrant on the grounds that their entry might be detrimental to the United States. It was a Cold War piece of legislation, but it's something that is part of a historical tradition. What I'm mostly interested in is what will the process be at the end of the 30 days, at the end of the 120 days, because we don't want a religious test. One of the great things about America is that religion has been able to shape us without strangling us. I don't think we should be trying to violate
All right,
that.
but it's clearly aimed at terror nations. I mean, if you're a Muslim in Morocco, you can get on an Air Morocco flight and come here, and you're not going to be impacted. So, I mean, there's sort of a logic to it. Sure. Although, we haven't seen the order yet, this is what the advance that we've got. Now, Mr. Azerrad, I asked, because I'm a simple man, you guys know how simple I am, it's tragic. I asked a question, why would you object to a border wall when you have a tremendous drug problem emanating in Mexico? And this wall, whether you like the wall or not, it's going to make it more difficult for the cartels to get their deadly ware in here. Why would you object to that? And nobody has really been able to give me an answer. Do you know?
I think I do. It's if you lose sight of one of the most basic axiom of political theory, namely that nations have sovereignty over their borders, and no one has a right to immigrate to the United States of America. No one has a right to become an American. And I say this as an immigrant who very much hopes to become, as an immigrant who very much hopes to become an American one day. This is simply about reasserting control over our borders. And the hysteria it's provoking on the other side is really quite disconcerting. It's a rather straightforward premise underlying all of these actions on immigration.
But what is driving the hysteria on the other side? I mean, I lay out a logical case that you've got to stop the drug traffic, somewhat, because you've got 50,000 people dying every year now, and they still don't want the wall or anything else to impede the narcotics and the people smuggling from getting in here.
It's the idea that you're giving preference to Americans over others. So you may be, they may not object to the narrow point about drugs, but they view it as being tied up with a broader issue of, do we give priority to our people over others? And this is really what irks them. Do we give priority to some people from certain parts of the world, perhaps whose way of life is more compatible with ours than from other parts of the world? Now, this is really what upsets them.
Okay, go ahead, John.
So I think we should also just be totally intellectually honest. People see it as almost a racist thing.
Why though? Why? If it were Canada and the same thing were happening, I'd say the same thing, wouldn't you?
No, I know. I'm just saying that that's why there is the pushback on it.
But that doesn't make any sense. They're assigning a bad motive to people who are saying we just want more security for the country. We don't want anarchy. Yeah. When you guys see de Blasio and a Rahm Emanuel, a Jerry Brown, a governor of California, basically say, I'm not going to obey federal law, what goes through your mind, Mr. Azerrad?
I think it's deeply problematic. I mean, from a strict constitutional point of view, cities and states cannot be commandeered by the federal government to enforce federal law, so they may have a defense that way. But I find it's unpatriotic and deeply disturbing.
But the federal law does override, Mr. Meacham, and when you see public servants, elected officials, they have to all take oaths to uphold the laws of the United States. All of them do. And then they turn around and go, I'm not going to uphold the laws of the United States. What goes through your mind?
We adjudicated this in the 1830s with Andrew Jackson and John C. Calhoun. States and cities don't get to pick and choose which laws they follow. It was called nullification. And I think that there has to be a rule of law on this. And to go back to the wall for a second, I want to be clear. I was offering the racial element as an analytical point.
I agree. People believe that, but it's so fallacious and such a ridiculous argument. And I want to point out that you did write a book about Andrew Jackson, The American Lion, was it? Was that it?
It was.
Okay. But Jackson had a good way to deal with people who wouldn't obey federal law. He basically shot them. So he was a lively president. Not since Andrew Jackson, and Trump is starting to identify with Jackson. Have you guys noticed that?
He's hanging the portrait in the Oval Office.
He's starting to identify with Andy. So I don't know if that's a good thing or not. But when I get down to the White House on Super Bowl Sunday, we'll talk about it.
Wear your Kevlar.
Gentlemen, thank you. Directly ahead, Judge Jeanine Pirro. Furious with